Well, wow, this is my first time recording anything in a hot minute. Hi, I'm your least favorite person. I just made a dumb video because I hopped on the Animal Crossing today. Okay, but getting that out of the way. So, I'm here to clear up a few things about the MCU timeline, or for people who don't know the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, I do hear people say stuff like Endgame takes place in 2023, and every time I do, I die a little on the inside. So I'm not gonna keep you waiting, so here we go! So I'm not gonna keep anyone waiting. I already mentioned the Endgame thing. Let's just dive straight into it. So, again, as I said, I hear a ton of people say Avengers Endgame takes place during 2023, since Infinity War takes place during 2018. And in Avengers Endgame, it says 5 years later, so 5 years later is 2023. There are a couple pieces of evidence that easily disprove that. The first big one is Infinity War takes place at most 15 minutes after Thor Ragnarok, which takes place in 2017. Also, during Infinity War, Tony Stark states that Thanos has been in his head for 6 years. And small, decently uncommonly known fact is that the first Avengers film actually takes place in 2011, not 2012. This lines up because, again, 6 years after 2011 is 2017. I mean, there is one way, but it doesn't work. So the only feasible way for Infinity War, and by virtue, Avengers Endgame, to take place in 2018 and 2023 respectively, is that Thor Ragnarok would have had to have ended just before New Year's. But there are some things to disprove this. So the first big thing to disprove this is that, notably, New York gets a decent bit of snow. And in Avengers Infinity War, there is no snow to really be seen. And since, New Year's is during the winter, it would of course be snowing. Another easier one to spot is that, schools, at least here in the US of A, generally have a break during winter, which generally lasts from before the holidays to post New Year's. So, then why do we see Peter Parker taking a bus to school? Well, it doesn't take place during the New Year's break. That's it. So, finally, Avengers Infinity War takes place during 2017, and Endgame takes place in 2022. Okay, so this second one isn't really like a timeline misconception, it's simply just a mistake in the editing. Well, that's at least what I believe it is. So, in Spider-Man Homecoming, at the beginning, there is a scene of Adrian Toomes and his salvage crew just after the events of Avengers 1, which we've previously established to have taken place in 2011. So, there is some text in that scene that says something along the lines that this scene takes place 8 years ago. And in order for that to actually work, this would mean that the Spider-Man Homecoming would have to take place 2 years after the snap, in 2019. This can't happen for obvious reasons, because, he's dead. So, honestly, this is just super simple. It takes place in 2016. It's just a simple editing mistake. It barely made it on here. It was just one of the big ones I could think of. This one is really simple. I can get this done in like a minute. So, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, one of my personal favorite MCU movies, takes place shortly after Guardians 1. Not much to prove this, but I believe it is canon. I'm 90% sure. And also, you can see this because Guardians 2, the characters act very much more like they did in Guardian 1 comparatively to Infinity War. And in Infinity War, you can also see Mantis seems a bit more experienced when fighting Thanos on Titan. This is because she would have about 3 years of practice and experience now. Also, in Infinity War, there probably would have been more grieving over Yondu's death, because it would have been more recent if it happened in 2017. So this is our final one, and again, it's another simple one. The most complicated one was that Avengers Endgame one. So this refers to Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and the Incredible Hulk. So the first Iron Man and Incredible Hulk are believed to take place in 2008, because that's release year, and a lot of people think X movie takes place in X year it was released. This is wrong because, well, Iron Man 2 takes place shortly after Iron Man 1, mainly because the courtroom scene is a big factor in this, as they probably would have had this already done if this had happened like 2 years prior. But it doesn't. Also, I believe somewhere in Iron Man 2 it says this has been like 6 months from the first. Don't quote me on that, but also it makes sense since he'd only be like 2 armors up, like he's only made 2 in like 6 months, which makes sense. Also, the post-credits scene for The Incredible Hulk takes place in between Iron Man 1, when Nick Fury recruited Tony Stark, and in Iron Man 2, when, all that happened. And if you think about it for a little bit, don't you think it's a little weird that Nick Fury would be toying with this idea of maybe you will, maybe you won't join the Avengers with Tony for 3 years until 2011? That just doesn't seem too right. I think if it happened all over like a year he was toying with the idea, I think that makes a lot more sense. So, pretty low stakes theory, but Iron Man 1, 2, and The Incredible Hulk all take place in 2010. It's also slightly more proven by the new What If episode that just came out, where what if the Earth lost its mightiest heroes, because that takes place with Iron Man 2, shortly after the events of The Incredible Hulk and the original Thor, which again takes place in 2010. This was an absolutely no stakes video. I did have a bit of fun making it, and it wasn't too long, so great for me. So now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go take another 6-month break. Bye.